Oh, the absolute indignity of it all. Reduced to a bargaining chip in a game of chance between a drunken Zalaxian merchant and a human with questionable hygiene habits. I, Dr. Vex Noblax, senior researcher of xenobiological systems at the Quintteran Science Academy, property of a Terran smuggler named Marcus Quinn. Even as the words formed in my mind, my sensory tendrils quivered in disbelief. This has to be some kind of joke, I snapped, watching as Grank, the bloated, purple-skinned Xylaxian merchant, handed my identification chip to the human across the table. The chip, a shimmering sliver encoded with my credentials, authorizations and biometric signature, glinted like a dagger as it left his clammy fingers. I am a respected researcher with 14 published studies on interspecies molecular compatibility, I continued, voice modulator clicking as frustration mounted. You cannot simply wager my contractual status in a card game. Grank waved a stubby, three-fingered hand dismissively. Debt is debt, tentacle face. You signed a service contract with Xylax Trading Incorporated Clause 7, Paragraph 12. Transferable obligations. Read the fine print. I most certainly did not consent to ownership transfer, I hissed. The agreement was for a 3-cycle research expedition. Grank sneered. Which is now under new management. He gestured toward Marcus Quinn with the smugness of a worm that had just swallowed a fruit whole. This human's your new supervisor. Marcus, to his credit, looked just as disturbed as I felt. His expressive human features were scrunched in that peculiar way indicating discomfort or perhaps gastrointestinal distress. I had studied humans. Their biology was baffling, hair where bone should be, glands for unnecessary emotional secretion, and the unfortunate tendency to talk even when silent observation would suffice. Look, Marcus said, running a hand through the keratin filaments on his scalp. I didn't ask for a person. I was expecting cargo. Spice maybe. Or mineral credits. Too bad, Grank said. Quintteran's worth more than any spice crate. On the right market? You're getting a bargain. You talking about slavery? Marcus's voice shot up an octave. Because that's been illegal in Terran space for centuries. Not slavery. Indentured servitude. Legal on the outer rim. I knew the semantics well enough. And still, the situation reeked of legal gray zones and ethical sewage. A strange flicker of hope ignited in my thoracic cavity. Perhaps this Marcus Quinn was not the brute I had expected. Humans were known for many things, irrational optimism, volatile politics, excessive body heat, but I had read that some of them still retained a moral compass. I have no intention of treating you like property, Marcus said, hesitantly rising from the table. This is just a misunderstanding. Grank chortled, a noise that involved at least 3 nostrils and made nearby patrons recoil. Deal's done. No refunds. No exchanges. Enjoy your new assistant. And with that he waddled off, flaps of fabric and flesh quivering in tandem. I found myself staring across the table at my new employer, who was equally frozen in disbelief. His clothing was worn but clean, unusual for smugglers in these parts. His skin tone was darker than most Terrans I'd seen in person, and his eyes had that oddly compelling depth humans were known for. I decided then and there I would not make this easy for him. So, he said after an awkward pause, I'm Marcus. Yes, I replied dryly, I gathered that during your game of probability manipulation. He scratched his head. Look, Doctor. Dr. Vex Noblax, I corrected, senior researcher of comparative xenobiology. Not that it matters anymore. He gave an uncomfortable laugh. Well, Dr. Noblax, I don't want to own anyone. Let's go to the nearest Galactic administration office and get your contract nullified. All 4 of my eyes blinked in unison, a Quintteran sign of surprise. You would do that? Just let me go. Of course, he said, already walking toward the exit. Humans don't keep sentient beings as property. Not anymore anyway. I followed, somewhat stunned. Perhaps this wouldn't be as catastrophic as I thought. But then again, this was the Outer Rim. And we had just made a scene in the middle of a seedy trade outpost. Things would no doubt get worse. They always did. The human vessel was everything I had feared, and, begrudgingly, a few things I had not expected. It was called the Lucky Star, a name that screamed desperate irony or misplaced optimism, I wasn't sure which. The ship looked like it had been cobbled together from the remains of at least 4 different models. Possibly 5 if the auxiliary thrusters were of Cernakian design as I suspected. Yet as we stepped aboard I found myself pausing. Was clean. Meticulously so. Every panel polished, every tool secured, every surface wiped free of the usual biofilm that covered most Rimworld freighters. I could practically hear the hum of carefully balanced systems behind the walls. "You keep a surprisingly sanitary vessel for a human," I remarked as Marcus led me through a narrow corridor that forked into a galley and a single multipurpose cabin. He glanced at me. "Thanks? Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation. Most humans have looser standards." He laughed, short and sharp. "Yeah, we've got a reputation. Loud, messy, emotionally unstable. And recreationally toxic," I added helpfully. "Your species consumes alcohol, caffeine, and, bafflingly, capsaicin for pleasure." Marcus grinned. "What can I say? We like to live on the edge." The multipurpose room he offered me as quarters doubled as cargo hold and medical bay. He gestured toward a fold-down bunk. "It's not much, but it's private." "It will suffice," I said, running a scan with my wrist module. "Though I require significantly less rest than humans. Approximately 2 hours per standard cycle." "That must be convenient." "For research, yes. For enduring long stretches of tedium, not especially." Marcus prepared something in the ship's galley, a vaguely square block of rehydrated protein he assured me was edible, though I stuck to my mineral solution. As we sat across from each other, the tension between us began to erode slightly, replaced with a tentative curiosity. "So," he asked between bites, "what exactly is a comparative xenobiologist?" "I study the physiological compatibility between species. Cellular structures, immune responses, molecular interactions. Essentially, I determine whether your body fluids would kill me." He paused mid-bite. "Charming. I assure you it's quite fascinating. And your contract with Grank, what was it for?" "A research expedition. He claimed access to rare exofauna from the Kravari wastes." I was eager. Perhaps too eager. Marcus frowned. "Did you ever wonder why a sleazy Outer Rim trader had access to top-tier biological samples?" "I do now," I admitted. He pushed his empty dish aside. "You said your research had applications beyond pure science. What kind?" "Adaptive biological interfaces," I said slowly. "Theoretically, it could allow cross-species neural linkages, medical breakthroughs, enhanced communication, weapon systems." Marcus froze. "Wait, weapon systems?" "Not by design," I said quickly. "But yes, militaries would be interested." He ran a hand through his hair again. "A stress signal. Grank might have been trying to sell your research to someone." The thought struck me like a rogue asteroid. "By the void," I muttered. "That explains the contract language. The limited scope. The non-disclosure clauses." Marcus stood and moved to the pilot console. "We need to get you to someone who can help. Fast. The nearest Quintteran embassy is on Proxima Station," I said. 3 sectors away. "We'll head for Vega Minor first," Marcus said, tapping the NAV system. "I've got a contact there. Might be able to forge transit documents." "But Vega Minor is in Hegemony space," I said, alarmed. "I know." I narrowed my eyes. "You're a smuggler, aren't you?" "I prefer independent logistics specialist." "How euphemistic." He grinned. "Thanks." Just then the comm unit beeped. Marcus checked the display. "That's weird. It's from Outpost security. We already cleared departure." He opened the channel. "Trading vessel Lucky Star," a gruff voice barked. "Return to dock immediately for cargo inspection." Marcus muted the comm. "They know you're aboard." "How?" "We only left 47 minutes ago." Grank wouldn't report it. He'd incriminate himself. Someone else must have seen the game. He unmuted the comm. "This is Lucky Star. We've already passed inspection and received clearance." "What's the issue?" "New information has come to light. Return immediately or we will be forced to take action." Marcus sighed. "Yeah, no." He turned to me, that glint in his eyes returning. "Strap in, doctor. Things are about to get interesting." "In what way?" His hands danced across the control board. "We're going to run." Before I could protest, the ship jolted forward, an unexpected burst of acceleration pinning me to the co-pilot seat. The outpost comm exploded with threats and warnings, but Marcus pushed the engines to the red line. "Are you insane?" I shouted, exoskeleton rattling with the G-forces. "Statistically, maybe. But I've outrun worse than this." The Lucky Star banked hard, engines roaring. I watched the stars outside blur into white streaks as we jumped to burn velocity. And I realized with a strange mix of dread and exhilaration. I was in this now. We didn't speak for the first few minutes after the jump. The Lucky Star hummed around us, its patched-together hull rattling slightly as it adjusted to maximum sublight velocity. I gripped the armrest with all four manipulators, not out of fear, but from the sheer improbability of what had just happened. I, Dr. Vex Noblax of the Quintteran Science Academy, had just become a fugitive. Not for stealing data or violating protocol, but because a human smuggler had won my research contract in a game of chance. Life, as the humans say, is strange. Okay, Marcus said once the ship stabilized. We've got about 3 standard hours before we hit the Hegemony border. After that, things get complicated. I would argue they are already complicated, I muttered. He flashed a grin. You haven't seen complicated yet. With a few taps he brought up a galactic map. 3 bright sectors lit the route between our current position and Vega Minor. One of them pulsed red. That's Sector 9 Delta, he said, pointing. Full Hegemony control. Heavy patrol presence. Checkpoints, scans, even random boardings. Perfect, I said dryly. Why don't we just broadcast our coordinates and save them the trouble? Marcus ignored the sarcasm. We'll swing through this asteroid field here, he gestured. It's dense enough to hide our signature. If we power down non-essential systems, we might slip through. Might, I repeated. You place a lot of faith in probabilities. I prefer to think of it as aggressive optimism. Spoken like a true Terran. As Marcus plotted our course, I studied him again. Humans fascinated me. Biologically, they were resilient to a fault, capable of surviving in conditions that would incapacitate most species. Psychologically, they were paradoxical, chaotic yet cunning, empathetic yet warlike. They had split the atom and invented poetry in the same century. And Marcus Quinn was an anomaly even among them. You don't seem like a typical smuggler, I said. He raised an eyebrow. What does a typical smuggler look like? Less clean. More morally ambiguous. Oh, I'm plenty ambiguous, he said with a wink. But I try not to traffic in living beings. You were an exception. And not by choice. I hesitated, then asked the question I'd been circling since we left the outpost. Why help me? He looked up from the controls. Because what happened back there was wrong. Because I don't like Grank. And because if someone's trying to weaponize your research, that's bad for everyone. That answer satisfied me more than I expected. Thank you, I said quietly. He nodded. Don't mention it. Seriously. We'll both be in trouble if you do. 2 hours later, the lucky star slipped into the asteroid field. The view outside shifted from endless stars to a dizzying ballet of massive rocks tumbling through space. Marcus shut down everything except life support and thrusters. The silence inside the ship was oppressive. I used the time to recalibrate my neural scanner, part of my research kit, while Marcus checked weapon systems. Not that they'd help much against a Hegemony cruiser, but it gave him something to do. I hope your contact on Vega Minor is trustworthy, I said. He's not, Marcus replied. But he hates the Hegemony more than he likes credits. That's the next best thing. Charming. The comm crackled. Marcus froze. So did I. Unidentified vessel, came a voice through static. This is Hegemony patrol ship Valorous Blade. You are operating in restricted space. Respond immediately. Marcus didn't move. They're scanning, he whispered. Damn it, they must have picked up our signature through a resonance echo. I activated my translator module. Perhaps we could bluff. Claim I'm your medical officer. He gave me a look. With a Quintteran accent and no papers? Point taken. The voice repeated louder now. Unidentified vessel, respond or be fired upon. Marcus swore under his breath, then hit transmit. This is the Lucky Star independent cargo hauler out of Deltan Rim. Engine malfunction forced us into this drift zone. No hostile intent. There was a long pause. Then, transmit cargo manifest and crew registry. Marcus muted the comm and turned to me. Time for Plan B. I thought this was Plan B. No, this is Plan B. He reached into a floor panel and pulled out 2 crates, one labeled reactor coolant, the other, emergency rations. From them, he extracted 2 military-grade signal dampeners and a forged Hegemony officer's badge. Where did you get that? I played a lot of poker, he said. He slapped the badge onto his jacket and handed me a breath mask. They'll send a boarding party. You're not going to like this, but you need to pretend to be dead. Excuse me? It's not personal. But a dead alien in a coffin crate is less suspicious than a living one without papers. I hesitated. I don't like this either, he said. But it's the only way. Reluctantly, I crawled into the crate. It was cold and dark. My sensory tendrils retracted instinctively. Marcus sealed the lid, and I was plunged into silence. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. Voices. The unmistakable tone of authority. I caught fragments through the crate wall. Engine diagnostics, no contraband. We detected a second life form. Dead. Transporting for burial. Quintteran? What was it doing with you? Science expedition gone bad. A long silence. Then one of them laughed. Humans and their luck. The footsteps receded. Eventually the lid cracked open. Marcus peered down. You alive in there? Barely. Then congratulations, Doctor. We just survived Hegemony customs. The Lucky Star emerged from the asteroid field scarred but intact. Marcus let out a long breath and pushed the engines forward with a surge that felt like relief given form. I remained curled in the corner of the cockpit, my limbs stiff from having spent nearly an hour pretending to be deceased cargo. Remind me never to let you talk me into anything again, I muttered. Hey, you're still breathing, Marcus replied, grinning. That's a win in my book. The stars outside gave way to the hazy green and gold orb of Vega Minor, a fringe world caught between allegiance to the galactic hegemony and the lure of independent commerce. It had once been a thriving academic hub. Now it was home to black markets, ghost ports, and scientists like me, those who knew too much or asked the wrong questions. As we descended, a storm crackled over the northern continent. Looks like we're heading into some atmospheric interference, Marcus said. Perfect cover. Or perfect chaos. He glanced at me. Same thing in this line of work. We touched down at Port Haskell, a half-buried ruin of an old mining settlement turned smuggler haven. Towering cranes rusted in place. Dust storms coiled like serpents through the streets. And waiting at the dock, flanked by two hulking Drazic mercenaries, was a man in a violet synth coat and mirrored oculars. Vex Noblax, Marcus said as he powered down the ship. Meet the one and only Rockfeline. Ex-Hegemony intelligence. Blacklist level 10. Now he sells secrets to the highest bidder. I heard that, Rock called out, voice slick with sarcasm. And I don't sell secrets, Quinn. I curate them. Marcus opened the ramp and stepped down without hesitation. I followed, slower, every instinct screaming that this was a very bad idea. You brought a Quintteran into Hegemony jurisdiction? Rock asked, arms folded. You've got nerves? Or brain damage? Maybe both, Marcus said. But he's got something valuable. Research the Hegemony wants silenced. That interests you, yeah? Rock's mirrored eyes turned toward me. Depends. You got anything that goes boom? Not unless a hyperdimensional fusion cascade counts, I replied. Rock laughed. You're fun. Come on. We followed Rock through a winding subterranean bazaar lit by glowing algae and overhead plasma strips that flickered uncertainly. Beings of every species traded wares, memory cores, off-grid weapons, quantum spores. A Selenari hive queen was bartering with a Brelic pirate over a vial of Terran blood. I hate this place, I whispered. Me too, Marcus replied. Feels like home. Rock's office was a reinforced bunker with shielding that could survive a meteor strike. Inside, he poured a dark fluid into 3 crystalline cups and motioned for us to sit. Tell me what you've got, he said. I activated my neural scanner and projected a hologram above the table. A spiraling lattice of quantum entanglement matrices, layered with my research on predictive AI synthesis and latent sentience modeling. Rock whistled low. You're trying to model future intent? Not just model. Predict and shape. The Quintteran Institute believed it could neutralize galactic conflict by preemptively understanding aggression before it manifests. Yeah, well, the Hegemony wants to use that to build murderers that can sniff out rebels before they think of rebelling, Marcus said. Exactly, I added. My project was co-opted without my consent. They twisted it. Rock leaned back, sipping the drink. So what do you want from me? Safe passage, Marcus said. And a channel to someone who can keep this research out of the Hegemony's hands. Rock was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. I might know a place. Not cheap though. I'll need something in return. Marcus rolled his eyes. Of course you do. Rock turned to me. Doctor, ever played Threxian Hazard? I blinked. That's a card game, is it not? Rock's grin widened. We're going to an auction in 3 cycles. The stakes are high. Credits, secrets, star maps. But the real prize this year is access to the archive. Marcus's expression changed. That's a myth. Not to the right buyers. And I've got an invite. All we need is a way in that doesn't raise suspicion. A Quintteran scientist? Perfect cover. I stared. You want me to gamble with my life's work? No, Rock said. I want you to gamble with the possibility of freedom. That's the Terran way, isn't it? Marcus looked at me. Your call, document. But if we pull this off, we can bury the Hegemony's plans for good. I stared at the swirling data still floating above the table. And nodded. Deal. The auction was held aboard the Seraphine Drift, a repurposed Hegemony battleship now orbiting the storm-scarred moon of Dovrax 3. According to Rock, it moved every year. Sometimes a ship, sometimes a station, sometimes a deep space asteroid ring cloaked in graviton fog. But always invite-only, always dangerous. This, Rock said as we boarded, is where secrets go to breathe, or die. The Seraphine Drift was all obsidian alloy and gold trim, a floating temple of vice and paranoia. Every corner was watched, every corridor whispered secrets. A dozen languages murmured in passing, hushed deals, code phrases, threats veiled as compliments. I stayed close to Marcus, clutching the forged credentials that claimed I was Professor Nex Volan, cultural attaché from the Iridari consulate. A lie, of course, but a plausible one. Marcus, dressed in a sleek Navy spacer's coat with silver embroidery, looked the part of an independent contractor with expensive tastes and flexible ethics. Rock, naturally, vanished into the crowd the moment we passed security. Classic Valine, Marcus muttered. Drops us in the blast zone and disappears before the first shot. The main event took place in a colossal dome chamber filled with anti-grav seating, a zero-G chandelier of rotating data prisms hanging above like a mechanical jellyfish. In the center floated a raised platform, glass, gold-trimmed, and ominous. Dozens of participants circled us. A pair of Narthan diplomats blinked in binary. A Skrull warlord with a pulse cannon for an arm eyed us like lunch. A hooded Terran woman whispered to herself in Old Earth Latin. I recognized none of them and all of them. Power players. Killers. Spies. Look alive, Marcus said, nudging me. They're starting. The auction began with smaller prizes. Hacked star maps, illegal terraforming codes, prototype weapons from forbidden tech eras. The bidding currency was not credits but secrets, data chips, memory shards, encrypted strings only the auction AI could verify. Then the lights dimmed. The moderator, a smooth-voiced AI wrapped in a humanoid exoform, announced. Final item, access coordinates to the archive. Estimated value, level 10 historical threat. Bidding begins now. A ripple passed through the crowd. I leaned closer. Is that real? Marcus shrugged. Doesn't matter. They believe it is. The first bids came fast. Political blackmail, fleet positions, alien genetic blueprints. Then, one predictive intent cascade. Partially completed. Quintteran origin. My stomach sank. That's my research, I hissed. Marcus's jaw clenched. Then we know the Hegemony's here. The dealer AI turned to our section. Newcomers. Do you bid? Marcus stood. We do. Full neural thread model. Level 3 predictive sequence. And used. The chamber went quiet. I wanted to scream. That was a bluff. We didn't have the finished version. But the AI accepted the bid. A slow smile spread across the face of a veiled figure 2 tiers above us. Humanoid wearing the seal. A slow smile spread across the face of a veiled figure 2 tiers above us. Humanoid wearing the seal of the Hegemony's internal directive. An agent. They stood. I challenged the bid. Let the game decide. Marcus cursed under his breath. Here we go. The platform reshaped itself into a glowing table. Cards formed from hard light shimmered into place. Threxian hazard. A game of deception, risk, and memory. The perfect distraction. The perfect trap. Play well, the agent said. Or forfeit your future. Marcus took the seat across from them. Keep calm, he whispered. I've beaten diplomats and pirates at this game. I stayed behind him, silent, praying to gods I didn't believe in. The cards were dealt. Threxian hazard isn't about numbers. It's about reading intentions, bluffs layered in strategy, logic disguised as chance. The agent played conservatively at first, but every move betrayed precision. Calculated. Trained. Marcus matched it with chaos. He discarded valuable hands, played risky bluffs, and at one point declared, hazard, with an empty hand, forcing the agent into a misstep. Tension built. Spectators leaned in. Final round. One card each. Marcus tapped his temple, then placed his card face down. The agent hesitated. Then matched him. The AI scanned both cards. Victor, Marcus Quinn. The archive coordinates transfer to winner. A roar of disbelief. The agent stood abruptly. You cheated. Marcus stood, arms wide. Of course I did. I'm human. We left the chamber before the chaos ignited. Rock intercepted us at the exit, grinning wildly. You insane bastards actually pulled it off. Marcus handed him a drive. Split it like we agreed. Then burn your copy. Rock winked. Already gone. We boarded the Lucky Star without incident, but I could feel the hunt begin. Hegemony operatives would come. The game bought us time, nothing more. As the stars blurred into streaks and we jumped away, I turned to Marcus. We have the coordinates. What now? Marcus leaned back, hands behind his head. Now, Dr. Noblax, we find the archive. And we change everything. The coordinates led us to a part of space that wasn't on any official charts, deep in the Perseid expanse where even the Hegemony dared not patrol. The area was marked only in old smuggler logs as the Black Thread, a dead zone of gravity anomalies and silent derelicts, littered with the remains of forgotten wars. We dropped out of FTL near the edge of a fragmented asteroid belt, lit only by the distant light of a dying blue star. This is it, Marcus said, scanning the NAV grid. These numbers match. No signals, no chatter, no patrols. Just ghosts. Ghosts, and maybe a myth, I said, gazing into the dark. Marcus grinned. You sure you're ready to meet history head-on, Doc? History doesn't scare me. Living enemies do. He pointed at the gravimetric map. That rift? It's artificial. Someone carved it, like opening a wound in space. Let's see what bleeds. He pushed the engines forward. The Lucky Star groaned as we entered the rift and reality rippled, like diving through oil. Inside we found it. Suspended between gravity wells, hidden behind a warped microsingularity and shielded in a cloaking lattice of quantum mirrors, floated a construct the size of a small moon. It wasn't a station. It wasn't even metal. It was stone. Smooth, black, polished like obsidian. Markings covered its surface, etched in patterns no modern species recognized. And it pulsed with faint, rhythmic light. That's not possible, I whispered. Marcus exhaled slowly. The archive. Docking was impossible, so we suited up and took the pod. As we drifted closer, I could feel the hum, subtle, resonant. It vibrated through the suit into the chest. It's speaking, I murmured. Say what? Not in language. In mathematics. The pod latched onto a surface seam that opened like a petal blooming. Inside, we floated into a massive chamber of gravity-neutral silence. No lights. No machines. Just walls covered in symbols and a single pedestal in the center. Marcus reached out, but I stopped him. Let me. I placed my manipulator on the pedestal. A flash of white. Then, memories. Not mine. Worlds rising. Civilizations falling. Stars being born. Stars dying. A sequence of sentient life cycles played in fast forward, encoded in a neural cascade that defied time. A voice, not words but concepts, whispered in my mind. You are late. We waited. Too much silence. Then an image. A seed. Glowing. Flickering. Take it. Choose wisely. One species. One hope. I staggered back. Marcus caught me. What happened? It's a library of civilizations. Every extinct race, every lost empire. And it's offering us something. What kind of something? I turned to him. A tool. A spark. A restart button. We returned to the Lucky Star with the data crystal. My suit scanner couldn't even read its composition. It was encoded in 11 dimensions. No one alive could decrypt it. Except maybe me, if I completed my intent cascade. Marcus paced the cockpit. So we've got a God Machine library, a key to reboot civilization, and the hegemony breathing down our necks. What now? I looked at the crystal, then at him. Now we run. He blinked. Seriously? Yes. We need time. Time to unlock this. Time to understand it. And time to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. He nodded slowly. All right. Then it's back to the stars. He turned the ship, and the stars streaked as we jumped. Behind us in the archives chamber, the pedestal pulsed once. And then again. And somewhere far away in a throne room of gold and shadow, the hegemony's high director opened a sealed report and said, Find them.